now from Hollywood, California, the horror capital of the world, the Boulet Brothers, creatures of the night.
Unhappy Pride, everyone. That's right, even here in the catacombs of Boulet Manor, we must observe this Technicolor nightmare celebration that supposedly represents all of us, but somehow none of us. And we are still on the terror train across the country with the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 5 tour. So be sure to get tickets to the Dragula tour if you have not gotten them yet. It is an incredible show, and I don't really know how many more chances you'll get to see us with the cast of future seasons, so you want to come and check it out while you can. That also means that Ian will not be joining us on this episode, but you can find him on Twitch at DeVogler. Anyways, it is Pride season and an observation of the month. Today we're talking all things queer and horror. We're going to rank our 10 favorite queer horror characters. We're going to talk about some of our own It Gets Better experiences and how you can try to find your place in all this when everything around you is covered in bright rainbows and you feel like you don't belong. So why do you think Pride gets such a bad rap?
I think we should start by acknowledging that it does. It doesn't necessarily feel like for everybody per se. And I think we fall under that category. So even coming out and being young, it was like, oh, this is for us. And then you'd go and it'd be like, this is not for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What to me, I think it starts with the fact that it's usually held in the summer and it's very hot and muggy and sweaty and swampy out.
Blech.
And
yes.
so you had the sun beating down on you, right? Middle of the day, and you're sweating and it's disgusting and everyone around you, it's just not, it's not cute.
Now, coming from Southern California, we know that many denizens get into that whole vibe. But unfortunately for us, we like things to stay pale and under the moonlight, not so much bright and under the sunlight.
There also seems to be an unquantifiable amount of rodeo lesbians at Pride, right? And like, I just want to say, like, I'm not against rodeo lesbians. I think they should have their place at Pride. But are there that many rodeo lesbians that it takes up that much of a chunk of Pride? Right? There's always like mechanical bulls and cowboy hats and square. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get the rodeo Pride thing. Do you?
I don't get it, but I do love a good rodeo lesbian, so it's a pass. I give out free passes on that one.
I think also Pride feels corporate, right? It feels inauthentic.
Completely. Yeah, everybody wants those pink dollars when June starts to approach on the calendar.
And it doesn't always feel inclusive, right? Like the crowds at these events, to me, should feel as diverse as the flag that they put over everything. But a lot of people don't feel represented at Pride. And I mean, I never did. I just didn't feel like it was a place for me.
Yeah.
I had a shirt on. I didn't have Mardi Gras beads. You know, none of that was happening with me.
You weren't on a fresh cycle of steroids. You didn't have a thong.
Well, I would say...
Well, you did have a thong, but...
I would say back, I would say at one point, yes, I think the white muscle queen dominated Pride. I don't know that that's the case anymore, but it doesn't really feel inclusive. Do you think that?
I agree. And I think part of it is because it's such a big party and it turns into like a serious debaucherous, like drugs, alcohol, dancing and all that, which is fun. But I think it veers really into like the circuit party lane. And I think that's where that's where, like Pride events, the circuit parties, which can be fun, but you have to kind of fit like a certain criteria. You have to have the right look and the right body, because if you don't,
you mean
like
rawhide muscle meat rack?
Exactly.
After, Warehouse Daddy. What's some of the other ones?
Exactly. Tough, like bull balls or something. I don't know.
But here's the thing. At the same time, Pride is important. So while it doesn't necessarily feel inclusive, and we can find these faults in it, and we're generalizing, of course, too, right? Because not all prides are like that. There are some prides that I've been to that have felt very inclusive. Seattle Pride.
You took it right from my mouth. Yeah, we hosted Seattle Pride a few years back, and it was such an eye-opening experience because we're coming from LA where we've lived for years, where the corporate vibe is very real. You know, Pride costs $1 million to get in. They fence off the whole area. It literally, they just bar people from it. And Seattle was open and free. And there were children, even though I don't necessarily love that. You know, everyone was included and represented, and it was really cool.
So not all prides aren't all the things that we're talking about, but I think just as a general blanket concept, it has that vibe.
It does.
Yeah.
Now,
Now,
you said it's important, and I'm wondering why you think it is important.
so despite all these faults with Pride, the idea of Pride is important, right? Because it puts out into people that wouldn't normally pay attention to queer things. It puts it right in their face, and they have to look at it. They have to acknowledge that this huge army of people are part of their community and want equal representation.
Yeah.
So I think that part of it's very important, the visibility, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And also it acknowledges that there is a lot of like targeting and bigotry and being excluded and not being represented when you grow up as a queer person and you see media. You just don't see yourself necessarily represented in much of it. And I think that's really important for like self-identity and confidence and just feeling like included. So I think that's why Pride exists, right? We acknowledge this struggle that we've went through kind of like societally, and in hopes that that is changing and transforming. And I hate when people say like, well, what about straight pride? Like, why are they shoving it down our throats?
Who said that?
I mean, they do. No, you see it. It's crazy.
That's every
like,
day, Sherry.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, talk about like shoving it down your throat. Like, if you're a queer person floating through the world, everything you see, you're inundated with like heteronormative everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Straight pride is every day for those asking.
It's 11 months out of the year.
So how can you celebrate pride despite all this, right? I've been giving this some thought. This is what I think we should do with pride.
Okay.
I think we should privatize pride. And what I mean by that is everybody can wake up and go to the parade, right? But just like during the holidays, you can go to the Christmas parade, but you don't stay there all day and all night, right?
And get wasted.
No, you go to the parade and then you go home and you celebrate your way. And everybody has a different way of celebrating the holidays. And so to me, I thought make pride more of a closer friends and family. Like, for example, house parties. I think if you have house parties that cater to your particular friend group and community, so everyone can pitch in, everyone's welcome, you can cater it to your specific group, right? If you're like rock and roll gays, okay, there's your rock and roll gay. You know, you don't have to play pop music and have a rainbow flag over everything. Like, I think you could make pride what it means to you.
Yeah. I remember a Dragula party years ago at Pride season, and we had decorated with like grayed out rainbows. There were no color, and they were going into little clouds that were kind of like vomiting all the color out. And I feel like that imagery
you
kind of
made
sums
storm
it up.
clouds that were vomiting rainbows, and that was perfect.
It really was kind of perfect.
Yeah, and we had a rainbow colored Muscle Daddy Frankenstein cut out, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about.
We did it our way.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So the representation's important, but if you want it to feel more authentic to you and the people around you, I think bringing it a little closer to home, making your own pride celebration is the way to go.
I agree. And there are other things too. Like some people, they're sober and they don't want to party and they don't want to rage that way or kind of commemorate the month with all of that. So you can set up your own kind of happy and party and invite your other sober friends and, you know, kind of do it your way.
No, I think this is great insight from two people who haven't been to Pride in the last decade, right? Would you say?
Absolutely. Even though we're kind of, we did kind of spearhead the DTLA Proud movement years ago and kind of launched that second Pride event in Los Angeles. And granted, I think we went in there with a lot of naivete and a lot of hope that we can make something all-inclusive, very accessible, free, like give our time. And that lasted like all of 5 minutes because the
Here
corporate...
came the queens with their Prada hats and their saucy parties, and they wanted to do percentages, and it was just like...
Here comes the bars
nightmare.
with their liquor licenses that they want to license out on the side to the Pride event so they can make an extra 30 fucking grand.
Yeah, it was not what we intended it to be, I'll say.
It was ugly and not in the good way.
The first year I thought was good, right? We all volunteered our time. We didn't get paid. The performers didn't get paid. We planned it. We executed. And that was a lot to plan and execute a Pride of that size. And I was very proud of that part. I mean, we did all the
programming on the stage and everything,
for free.
Yeah, and we programmed the hell out of that too. I mean, we over-programmed it.
Well, that's what they wanted. They wanted something on constantly on stage
like 10
for 20 hours, 10 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that's all cleansed from us now.
Yes, that is the past.
That's just one group of people. All right. Anyways, we are joking about all this, but visibility really is important. So no matter how you do it, I would suggest everyone participate in Pride in some way, shape, or form this year. And even if it doesn't seem like it, there is a community out there for everybody.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we will be listing our top 10 favorite queer horror characters and why they made our list. Stay tuned, uglies.
All right, we are back, and we have a list of our top 10 queer horror characters and why we love them. And these are going to be in order. So number 1 is our ultimate queer horror icon, and we're going to have to figure it out as we go because I didn't put them in line.
Oh, I don't know that we're going to agree necessarily, but...
Well, this will be interesting then.
Okay.
So, look, this list... If I did this list in a week, it would probably change. Let me just be honest.
Yeah.
Because, right, like...
Oh, no, yeah.
You remember, oh, what about that movie? What about this? And you forget stuff. But these are some tried and true queer horror individuals that I think resonate with everybody. So let's start with Norman Bates.
Yes.
Norman Bates of Psycho fame.
Mm-hmm.
Norman
a classic character.
Bates was so queer coded in every way. She was a fabulous drag queen, a murderess, a psychopath,
a girl right from our own lineage.
And she owned an old Victorian house. So maybe it's me.
You are Normana Bates.
So Norman Bates, to me, you know, there were definitely queer people in horror movies and queer subtext before Psycho. Absolutely, for 20 plus years before that. But to me, I thought Psycho and Alfred Hitchcock's fame really put the queer subtext of horror in front of a lot more people that probably had never seen it before.
I think you're right. And for whatever reason, men dressing in ladies' clothing is really scary, because how many horror movies have we seen where the killer is a cross-dresser and they're somehow portrayed as deranged and like a psychopath?
Which brings me to our next character on our queer horror icons list, which is Kenny from Terror Train. So if you haven't seen Terror Train, this is a movie that Jamie Lee Curtis was in the 70s. And essentially there's a killer on this train that's driving through the night, killing everybody. And you end up finding out that the killer is in drag or is cross-dressing. And you find out that they have been masqueraded as a magician's assistant to be on the train, and so was sort of living among them and then would change out of drag and kill people. It was wild.
It was wild. And I have to thank you for introducing me to Terror Train drag.
Terror Train it's one of my favorites. It is.
Is it really? No, it can't be.
It really is. Yes.
Oh my God.
I think it's very creepy.
Not a lot of franchises need a redo, but Terror Train needs a redo.
I agree. And I volunteer to do it.
Yes.
Next on our list is Glenn and Glenda of Seed of Chucky fame.
Yes. I mean, it explains itself.
Yes.
It absolutely explains itself.
To me, I really love that Don Mancini, you know, he's a gay man who is the creator and writer of Chucky. I love that he brought queer subtext to the screen in kind of a wrong way. Do you know what I mean? Like with Alexis Arquette and all, it was just, he always like pushed it in a wrong way that I felt like audiences received.
Yeah. And I respect it. And I kind of couldn't believe it when I first saw like Seed of Chucky and the gender blending and like the gender swapping and all of that. I was sort of like, wow, this is really bold to put this in front of mainstream audiences.
So ahead of its time.
Way ahead.
So ahead of its time. And I love that they made an appearance in the Chucky TV series too.
Oh, totally. I know.
Next on my list is the Countess, who you know, not from the Real Housewives of New York, the Countess from Dracula's Daughter. Because this is one of the first times we saw a lesbian-coded vampire on screen, which is a very
commonly used trope.
Very
like lesbian
commonly used
vampires
trope,
is like an absolute thing, especially for some reason they were raging in the 70s. But this may be the first time we've actually seen that character.
Mm-hmm. I actually really identify with this Countess Zaleska. Right? I think I kind of have a similar look. I like her poise. I'm into her. So she makes the list.
Excellent. Next up, we have our favorite familiar from What We Do in the Shadows, Guillermo.
Oh, yeah.
He's so fun.
Yes.
It's so cute and cool and twisted and weird. I think what a good pairing. If you're a fan of Dragula, you will absolutely be a fan of What We Do in the Shadows.
This, to me, is an example of modern queer horror. And I feel like we're in that same league. Like, we're making stuff today that's pushing the boundaries. And I feel like Harvey Guillen really took that character and pushed it as far as you could. I mean, it's so fantastic. He's the star of the show.
And the whole show is so horny. Like, they talk about sex so much, and it's so free and open and not kind of like non-judgmental. And there's like that really strong undercurrent of like homoeroticism
throughout
between
all the
Guillermo
characters.
and Nandor, and even Nandor and the other one. Like, yeah, it's really mixed around.
Yeah, so I think Guillermo definitely deserves to be on our top 10 list. Next up is Lestat and Louis from Interview with the Vampire. So why don't you talk about that a little bit?
I mean, I am a huge fan of Anne Rice's books. I've pretty much read them all. Everything from all the Vampire Chronicles, The Witches, Body Thief, the Sleeping Beauty Chronicles. Like, I really went through.
So if we want to pick up the book nook, we need to just review Anne Rice books, and
I
you'll
would
be
love
good.
to go back and
Well,
reread.
we could.
I love to go back and reread them because they were so good. But for me, as a young queer person, reading and seeing two men that were described as just like pretty and deadly in love with each other and being intimate with each other was such an impactful moment for me, just to see that kind of representation.
Yeah, and I think that movie and that book brought the idea of queer vampirism to a lot of mainstream audiences.
Absolutely. And I kind of want to tip my hat to the remake that's right now on AMC Plus. The second season of the Vampire Chronicles is out now, and I watched the first season. I haven't been able to see the second season yet, but I really want to applaud them for everything that they've done, because they absolutely kept like the debauchery and the queerness, but they added a lot of kind of like racial dynamics. There's like a great diversity in that telling of Interview with a Vampire, and I'm a huge fan of it.
I might watch it with you, actually.
It's really good.
Yeah, I've seen some of the previews on AMC Plus, and it looks really interesting.
Okay, so next up, maybe an unsuspecting character to make this list, but I think a very important one, which is Pinhead.
Yeah, why would you think
Hellraiser.
Pinhead would be an unusual one?
I don't necessarily think he like resonates with queerness per se.
Really?
Per se. Definitely like the BDSM community, but not necessarily like specifically queer, even though he's kind of fabulous and well spoken, and those might be indicators that she might have a little, you know.
I don't think you've been I don't think you've been to enough of these meat rack after parties, because if you had, you would see that Pinhead is very queer. There are a lot of people that look like her daddies at these clubs.
Yes.
In all the fetish areas. Not that I know, but that's what I've heard anyway.
I'll tell you, the book really paints a queerer picture, I think, of Cenobites and like the whole world. It's way more fabulous and subversive, and I think they changed it up a little bit for the movie. But let's also talk about Hulu's remake of Hellraiser, because Jamie Clayton, who is a trans actress, really kind of like made a lot of noise when they were cast as the new Pinhead.
Yeah, and she did a great job, actually.
Yeah, it was really cool.
So Pinhead definitely makes our list in whatever form they decide to take. And our next character could arguably not be queer, but I choose to believe they are very queer, and it is Freddy.
The man of my dreams.
Remember, I forget which character it is, but one of them called him a gay slur. One of the victims called him a gay slur, and I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street 2 or 3, I don't remember. So there's a little bit of a hint there. And then obviously Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was super, super gay.
Yeah. Really gay, from the hot shorts in the football field to that scene with the coach and the towel and the shower and all that. And we just got introduced to not a scream queen, a male final girl.
Mm-hmm.
She gay.
Yeah. So Freddy, very gay, and definitely makes our list.
Kind of a modern addition to our list would be Jennifer Check
Ooh,
from Jennifer's
Body.
Megan Fox's performance as Jennifer Check has been lauded by members of the LGBTQ community as their awakening of their sexuality, which is perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of queer subtext in that movie. I think a lot of people identify with it. It was like a coming out kind of energy for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. In a very sapphic kind of way.
Yeah, so I think Jennifer Check definitely belongs on our list. And our number one queer horror icon is...
Now, even though she makes the top of the list, we know that she loves to bottom, and that's Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Right, Frankenfurter is our number one queer horror icon.
Absolutely.
I mean, Frankenfurter as a character, especially when the movie came out, probably inspired more queer people to embrace their identity than anybody before them. It made it look so fun.
It made it look so fabulous in those fishnets and heels and everything.
I mean, the whole movie was about give yourself over to absolute pleasure, give into it, do it. You don't have to label yourself, do whatever you want.
Don't dream it, be it. Just go for what you love.
The message to me is so strong. It is the message from a movie that has resonated with me more than any other film, I would say.
I think so too. And it made such a huge impact when I was young and I first saw it. I could not believe what was happening. I just couldn't believe this sexuality on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think part of it too, which is powerful for me, is at the end when, Riff Raff and Magenta have turned on Frankenfurter and they're killing him, and the lyrics go something like your plan is just too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of openness, that kind of like open sexuality and embracing exactly who and what you are is kind of extreme for America and the world. So
yes.
I really respect Rocky Horror Picture Show for that message.
So that is our top 10 list, but we do have 2 honorable mentions. One is Elvira. Mm-hmm. And the reason Elvira is on the list, because obviously she is a queer horror icon, but I really love that Elvira was almost the poster child for a lot of homophobic horror fans. And there are a lot of homophobic horror fans. And if you don't believe me, just go on Shudder in the comment section on anything to do with queer horror and you will discover it very quickly. But Elvira gathered all those people up. They worshipped her. And then she's like, surprise, I'm a lesbian. Which is amazing.
It's so awesome. It's so incredible.
She was their TNA queen.
Yes, she was.
She was everything that was hetero about horror.
Totally.
But not.
Yeah.
And she was a total drag queen the whole time.
Incredible. Absolutely has a place on the list.
Yes. And the last person, or people I should say, is us, the Boulet Brothers.
Yes.
Now, normally I would feel uncomfortable saying that, but since we've been on tour and everyone's coming up to us in the meet and greet and everything and reminding us how important our message is to them and how what we say and do resonate with so many people and affect them and give them a black beacon in a very rainbow colored world, right?
Oh, I know. Those are the best kind of comments and the best kind of like meet and greet moments when you get reminded that what you've created and put out into the world is so important and impactful to someone else.
Yeah. So I think being on tour has reminded me of how far we've pushed into the horror space as queer people. We were the first drag artists to ever be on the cover of Fangoria. We're the first drag artists to be repped by CAA, which is a major agency. The first drag artists to have our own horror TV show. We host horror conventions. We set up huge activations there. And I feel like we are making legitimate strides towards acceptance and visibility in the horror space for queer people. It's not really my goal per se, right? Like
Right.
it's just sort of happening.
I wouldn't say it's a goal, but I think it goes back to like our kind of core beliefs because we're doing it, but we're not doing it by asking permission. It's more like we're doing it because we can. We're good at it. It's in your face, and I'm not asking if I belong here. I'm telling you that we belong here.
Exactly. We are taking our place at the table, and so I want to thank the fans for supporting us and the show and coming to see us at these conventions and tours and all these things and reminding us that what we do is important.
Thanks, Queerdos. And we are going to take another Boulet Blood Brew break, and we'll be right back with your listener questions. So stay tuned.
And we're back. It's time to reach over and open that squeaky, bat-encrusted mailbox. Let's see what's inside. Luke asks, I really only thought of this question because I've recently graduated and I'm realizing now how much I'm going to miss my teachers. In a way, you both are considered mentors to the Dragula contestants, but I was still wondering, in an alternate universe, what kind of school teachers would you be? Which subjects? Would you be super strict or extremely laid back? The supportive kind or super removed from the students? What do you think?
Okay, I think there's two subjects for me. Number one, and an ode to this tour, would be geometry, because I was killer at math, and I think it's one of the core curriculums, right, for any student.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be the type of teacher that was like looming, like a helicopter teacher. I'm like, you will get out of this what you put in. And if you don't put anything in, then you can float out of high school in ignorance for the rest of your life.
So you're a high school teacher.
Oh, I guess I assumed it would be high school, yes. Because I don't think they teach geometry in like elementary school.
Nowadays, they probably do.
And the other one is the very reciprocal opposite of that, which is a completely batshit out of this world crazy airhead art teacher who lets let a student do everything that they want to do, encourage all of their creativity, support the ones that are showing up for art, ignore the ones that don't care, and just really pour myself into, just supporting all their creative endeavors.
It reminds me of like a goofy character from Harry Potter or something.
It's the divination teacher. Yes. Like, I need a weird frizzed out wig, thick Coke bottle goggles, and a knack for divination.
Now, down the hall from you and on a separate level would be my classroom. And in my classroom, there would be a lot of respect, right? Because I'm like, you're here to learn something from me. I'm giving you something. I'm giving you a gift. So you will respect me and this environment and the school on which it is built.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be a lot of fun, but people would learn a lot. And I think I'd be pretty strict, actually, because I have a very low tolerance for bullshit.
I agree. And in the world where I'm teaching divination down the hall, you're definitely teaching defense against the dark arts.
Absolutely. Defense against the dark. No, I am teaching the dark arts, not defense against it. I got to teach these kids, or I got to teach these little goblins how to put a whammy on somebody.
Yeah.
It's important.
I'm a witch. Shoshana from Jerusalem, Israel asks, has Dracmorda seen the works of Christine McConnell? I feel like as a creepy Martha Stewart who is restoring an old Victorian house, she is manifesting Drac's deepest desires.
I am familiar with Christine, and I love her. In fact, you might see a collaboration with us at some point in the future. But I think what I was talking about last episode is not the same thing as what Christine McConnell does. I'm really more about the overall lifestyle, right? So it's like, come to my haunted Victorian farm, and we can show people about how do you grow Gothic plants? How do you grow herbs that are magical? How do you bake things? Like, it's more of an overall lifestyle thing. I am not the person that's going to sit there with a steamer and pull off little pieces of wallpaper and then repaint them over 3 months. That's not me.
The bitch is
I will
wild,
throw
but-
myself out the tower and be dead in the driveway.
It's so impressive though. Like when I saw that, I was like, this bitch is, and I couldn't believe it. And it looks so good. Like she's really talented.
She's really talented, and I love what she does. I just think we would do very different things.
Yeah. This is a shared dream too, I should say, because I think Drac and I would both very much enjoy having this sort of like dark tastemaker kind of presence when it is about the plants that you grow in your garden, the oils that you make, the food that you bake, and the way that you decorate your house, even flower arrangements and stuff like that. Everything like with the dark aesthetic.
Absolutely.
C asks, "Hi all, I've missed the podcast. So have we. I have a burning question based on Drac's tweet yesterday teasing Halloween will be amazing this year, uglies. I'm wondering if it's in reference to season 6 or perhaps another as yet unrevealed project."
Well, obviously, we haven't made any announcements about season 6 or ever admitted that it even exists, but you can look forward to that sort of thing in the future, in the fall of the season. But there's more. There is more that I'm referring to. There's a couple of things we have going for Halloween this year that I'm so excited about, and I can't wait to tell everybody about it, but it's not time yet. That's all the time we have tonight, my terrible little tulips. There is an army of undead misfits in Houston just waiting for us to appear with Halloween cheer like the Great Pumpkin.
Love it.
So we have to go and get ready. But Orlando, Dallas, Tucson, Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Seattle. If you do not have tickets to the Boulet Brothers Dragula Season 5 tour, get them now because we are coming for you next.
We'll see you next week, uglies, and please don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review to Creatures of the Night.
The Boulet Brothers Creatures of the Night is hosted and produced by Drac Morta and Swanthula Boulet, along with co-host Ian DeVogler, with music by Neuron Spectre.